Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Discussions with Dazerin. Today I am joined by Evil Genius's head coach for the Rocket League roster and a good old friend of mine, Fireworks. We're going to be talking about Fireworks' life as a player, a coach, for Evil Geniuses, and we're going to talk about something that's recently happened, which is the cross-region roster move, picking up Dripa and bringing him from Oceania all the way to America. What's going on with that? But first, Fireworks. I'm so glad to have you here today. It's been a long time coming. How you doing?
Great, thank you. I'm glad to be here as well. It's exciting.
Yeah. And for those wondering, Fireworks, you said you were at the EG training facility in California, right?
Yeah, that's correct. We are at the Xfinity training facility. That's the official name we like to use.
How many of those do you have, actually? Like, because I think there's a couple,
Uh,
right?
yeah, right now we have two. We have two gaming houses, if you want to call them that,
Mm.
where it's just like a house and you have players that stay in them. But we are actually going to be moving pretty soon, which I kind of hinted at on the Drip A release, and we can talk about that later as well if you want to.
Yeah,
There's
that'd
a
be
lot of
dope.
stuff going on with that.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's a really big move, and I mean we'll definitely get into that. But I mean, with you, obviously you have been critical to like helping your team be the team that it is today, but that hasn't been the entirety of your career. Let's talk about like things from the player
Yeah.
side. It's so funny too. I was talking to someone earlier. They were asking me about the episode, and they were like, "I remember when I first played with Fireworks and at an ESL or against them in an ESL, and he
Yeah.
completely spanked me." So, like, let's talk about like that short time with you as a player, like how like just get kind of give us the rundown.
Yeah. Back whenever I was actually good. So yeah, I played, uh, tried to play at least at the top level for about a year and a half or so. I'd say like basically as soon as Rocket League came out. For that first full year, I played nothing but the ESL like Sunday tournaments, and that was all we really had at the time. And we would do those every Sunday. And I was with like one team for like 6 months or whatever it was, and then we would always get pretty close, but never like really finish it off and get first place. But then I kind of moved on, and I ended up finding a team with Bell and Overdose Joey, and that was like during season one for RLCS. So that was back whenever we got through the qualifiers. They had like the two qualifiers, and so we got to the losers finals of each of those qualifiers, and we ended up not making it for each of them. The first one was when we played like Amani's team, and we got down. We were up, I think it was like 3-1, and then there was like 30 seconds left, and they came back and they won it, and they got in, and we were so sad. So we ended up like not being able to make it then. And then the second qualifier, I don't remember what happened exactly, but then so all of like RLCS went through. I kept grinding, I kept playing, and I had played other games in the past, so I was kind of already in this like competitive mindset, I guess you could say. But with playing those other games like StarCraft 2 and things like that, my hands were starting to hurt and I could kind of feel it. Like I used to play a lot of like really spammy like keyboard games, things like that. I used to do like World of Warcraft arenas, blah blah blah. So I knew going into season two that like my hands were already starting to bother me. And so we started season two and we thankfully ended up making it. So that was whenever I was with, it was me, Bell again from season one, and then we had Vince and Corrupted G. And I think it was me, Vince, and Bell who ended up doing the qualifiers. Or no, sorry, me, Vince, and Corrupted G because Bell wasn't able to make it. But so basically, during the qualifiers itself, I wasn't supposed to play because I had my cousin's wedding happening, and I was supposed to be going to that. And we also had our like the reception back at our house. And at that time, I was in like the basement with my parents, and they were planning on actually using that basement as their reception area. So there was like 50 people outside of my door whenever we were trying to qualify for RLCS.
Oh my
And
god.
I literally had to get pillows and blankets and board up my door so that like the voice activation didn't come through on the microphone.
Uh,
And still, like all you could hear in the background was like Latino music playing and all this stuff. And like people were dancing and having a good time. And like I'd stop outside every once in a while, but yeah, we thankfully still ended up making it. We did really well and got through, and then made season two. And then through season two, that's whenever we were all playing, and we kind of had like a 4-man roster almost.
mm.
So basically, like Bell and I would be swapping in and out, or me and Gabe, or me and Vance, or whoever. And so I played half of it, and then I think Bell played half of it as well, and kind of Gabe and Corrupt the G and Vince played the majority of them as well. So yeah, through that whole second season I played, and well, most of it, and then through that as well, like I said before, with like playing a bunch of different games, my hands were starting to really hurt, and I ended up having to go to the doctor because I wanted to get it checked out. And it turns out I had carpal tunnel and like mild arthritis in both of my hands.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I had to go and basically say, hey, I can't really play. Like this was after season 2 had finished.
Mm.
And by that point, like I was like, there's no way I can keep playing. I could probably try and get surgery, but at the same time, like it's still always going to hurt a little bit. So like I couldn't really play the amount of hours that I wanted to and try and do everything else that I needed to actually like stay competitive. So like that's whenever I kind of hit up Gabe for season 3, Corrupted G, and I basically said, hey, look, I could probably sub for you guys, and if I need to play, I probably could, but I'll give this coaching thing a shot. And that was like with Denial for season 3. So I helped them out. I coached them for that as well, and we ended up making it and going to LAN. And that's kind of like whenever my whole coaching career started.
Yeah, I think that's around the same time I met you because
Yeah,
it was very like it was I'd say it was like a chance meeting because at that time I was just casting around for the community and I was doing
yeah.
a lot of MLD stuff and I was helping out like Cloud and his team and you were helping them by giving them like
Oh
little tips
yeah,
and stuff. It was like for like one day. And I remember
yeah,
that,
yeah,
and like we've just kind of been like chill ever since. But
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
no, I
It's been
totally.
a it's been a roller coaster, that's for sure.
It has. Talk to me a bit about like kind of like the whole denial thing. I mean, I don't think we should really get too much into it because it's like it's an interesting subject. But from just like your perspective and like how like I want to say between your team and the org themselves, like what was like the communication like between them?
Yeah, that was interesting. Because back then I didn't really interact. It wasn't the same kind of like scenario I have now with EG, where like I'm full on like managing and coaching as well. So
Right.
there was like very little communication between us and the org. Essentially, they just paid us whenever they actually did pay us, and we would actually just compete for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole thing, that was an interesting org to say the least. There was a lot of drama with our team and also with H1Z1s. Like, luckily, we got the better deal out of it after we finished it than some of the other teams that they had. And apparently, they're actually resurfacing now for some reason. Denial is actually coming back. But I guess, long story short, pay your players. That's the first thing you should do.
Right.
And
Obviously.
besides
Yeah.
that, I don't want to go like too far into detail about everything, but it was still a good year. Like we still had a lot of fun, regardless of like anything that happened. Even like the managers that we did meet from Denial, like everybody that basically wasn't at the very top level, like everybody below that was really really cool. Like they came down for season 3, and they were with us during the tournament, and we got to see them, and that was actually the first time that the Chiefs ended up beating us with Dripa's over here too, by the way.
Oh, word! Can we get like a
Yeah, yeah.
wave? Is that a
Yeah,
thing we
yeah.
can
Come,
do?
can you wave? I got the camera over here. Come say hi. Over
You're kidding.
here. No, no.
Hey, what's up, Drippy?
Right there, you see it?
That's dope. How long has he been there?
For about since when? Friday? Yeah, Friday, right? You came in? Yeah, he came in on Friday. We both did, and then we had little happenings going on, but otherwise it was good. I'll
Okay.
have to. I don't want to go into too much detail because we love Xfinity, so
Right,
but it
right,
was
right,
good.
right, right, right. That's understandable. But speaking of Xfinity and EG, I mean, since we're on the topic, I mean, like from going to denial to EG, like just talk about like those guys and like what's it like working for them.
Oh man, like it's night and day, honestly. It's like this is obviously like the best job I've ever had in my life, to be
Mm,
honest. And even with that bias aside, like I really haven't I've told a lot of people this. I've never had better bosses in my life. Like I've worked for a lot of companies, like Home Depot's corporate office, a lot of different IT jobs, a lot of different companies, restaurants, all that stuff. And I've never really had anybody above me that I actually like fully I don't like to use the word love, but like really like loved as in like a professional sort of sense,
mm,
like really like respected and really enjoyed working with, and like even just talking to them about certain things, like any sort of questions I have, they've always been amazing about. And so going from like a company like Home Depot's corporate office where it was very tense and like very kind of like, you're not sure what's going to happen, or, there's all this drama going on, blah, 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 to, EG and working like my kind of dream job, this was like, incredible for me. So being able to not only be in a spot where I enjoy like, working in esports, but also in a company that actually like respects me and is able to support me and, help out us and the team or me and the team. It's amazing. Like it really is great. We're even here right now. Like they, of course, last minute, once we signed Dripa, they instantly were like, okay, let's get him out to the US. Let's try and get him qualified, or help with the qualifiers rather. And, they've just been super accommodating. It's been great.
Yeah, no, even for my my interactions just from like my end as a broadcaster, anytime like I bring you guys up, whether it was like streaming you guys that Saturday for the WS Elite quals, or even today with talking about LOL. or even today where we tweeted out you coming on the show. They've always been like, I think Matt's in the chat. He said he got us with the tweet out. He ends up tweeting out the streams all the
Hey
time.
Matt, I love you,
love
buddy.
it. I love it. Is Matt's like your social media guy? I'm assuming.
Yeah, he's a social media guy. Really good guy.
He's fantastic.
Really good at his job too.
He's fantastic, and I know exactly what you mean too in terms of just like kind of like going from that like Home Depot S vibe to like working in like gaming and in esports, especially because I'm on my second day working at NetherRealm for Mortal Kombat, and
nice.
It's night and day, dude.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Nah,
That's awesome.
It's totally night and day. I'm like a kid in a candy shop, so to speak. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's a whole different world too.
Yeah, for sure. But let's talk about some things that have gone on in terms of like your career as a coach, right? One of those was you got on to the RCS Broadcast. You were you got interviewed like in front of that. Like that was, I believe, the first time they've had like a coach at LAN that they've interviewed like live on there. How was that for you?
Very nerve-wracking at first, to be honest, but it was really good. Really cool experience. They had told me ahead of time that it was going to happen, so I kind of had like a feeling that it was going to, but it didn't really hit me until I was actually standing up there and like realizing, oh, okay, all right, this is actually happening. So it was good overall. Like just being able to try and represent, all the coaches that are out there is something that I've always like wanted to do and wanted to like push forward because in the end, like we do need more coaches in Rocket League. Like it's super helpful. The amount of like hours I put in for replays and for coaching and for replay analysis, like with the team and all that, like you can't really do that as a player. Like it's really tough. So having more coaches out there, like even just having the orgs that are watching, like being able to understand that, hey, there's, this is a very viable thing is something that I think is really helpful for not just like us as coaches, but for the scene in general too. Like I think with time, if every team has a coach, they're all going to get better. And you see that with most RLCS teams now is a lot of those teams do have coaches. So it's slowly becoming a thing. So it's great.
Can you explain kind of like why teams kind of need coaches? If you could like, if there was like, if I could give you a moment to basically like sell coaching to me as someone who doesn't know anything about them or someone or a team that doesn't have one, like why would I need a coach on my team?
I would say the biggest thing, honestly, is counter coaching. Like the obvious answer is, of course, like, hey, you can help your team. You're helping your team out a lot, and that's completely true. Like I could go on and on about that, but I think a lot of people don't realize how much importance there is on counter coaching against other teams, and that's something where like that's where my time goes into a lot as well. Like I would say half is for our team and half is for whoever we're actually going to play. Because if I can find ways to beat Dignitas or whoever, we didn't beat them, but like getting close at least or beating other teams, like G2 or NRG or whoever we end up playing against, then it helps us out in the end. And I think the more prepared that my team is, the better off we'll end up doing. And I mean, I could just show you, I got my notebook here. Like we really basically just have, like we had for, the Whedon girls team. I guess you can't really see that, but just a bunch of other stuff, like basically the strengths, weaknesses of the team, what we should do, and all of that. That's kind of where I come in at, and that's like the main gist of it. But I would also say too, it helps having that third party voice. Like that is one of the biggest things, especially for RLCS teams, where there's a lot of stress going on with these teams and these teammates, and everything's going on. And it's good to have like a third party neutral standpoint that can actually go in and like address any issues that you might need. So, as for whatever reason people might say their coaches wouldn't be necessary, I think they're 100% are. And I treat it kind of like a sports job at the same point. Like the same reason NBA players need coaches. They can shoot a basketball, they can do plays, but
Mhm.
really in the end, it's that coach that pulls everything together.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you're not the only coach I've spoken to in the scene. I've spoken to Splice's coach Jimmer a lot, Gregan for Vitality, and more in the scene. And it's all kind of like the same vibe here and there. Everyone has their own methods, obviously, but to the some of the basics, like just having like that third party voice, I could totally agree with,
Yeah.
and more. So I totally I can understand that. And I definitely support the whole coaching route for teams. It's proven to help like time and time again so far to speak. And I hope we see more of that in the future because it works out so well. What I want to ask you though, since working with EG, have you spoken to any coaches from other teams, and like what's it like working with those guys if you have worked with them?
Yeah, so I've spoken to Verge a lot from Allegiance back then, and then also I speak to Jazzo almost every day. Jazzo and I kind of go back with each other a lot, and we've shared ideas with each other a ton. I would say he's the one I'm closest to, and I would say that he's the one that like me and him really meld together well. And so we bounce ideas off each other all the time, and we kind of like shoot each other, info about what we're doing and what, they're doing and all the other teams and what's going on. And, of course, we don't want to give each other too much. There is still that competition standpoint, but at the same sense, we still like collab a lot. And same goes for Verge as well. I've spoken to him a ton, and we just kind of, bounce ideas off each other or talk about random things about coaching or about what we're doing with our teams or what's going on with everything else. And, even like certain things with meta and, different types of scenarios or strategies, things like that. So there's definitely a lot of people out there that are, really knowledgeable about coaching and, the actual scene itself in Rocket League. And it's good to kind of like go around and talk to everybody and making sure you're, keeping track with everybody and what's going on.
You guys go to each other to set up scrims, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. We talk to them. I talk to them constantly about scrims. That's one of those things that we've got the whole week set up for these whole scrims. So
Mm.
yeah, whenever we do have scrims that we're setting up, that's who we go to.
Yeah, that's definitely cool because you kind of have like that mitigated, like that certified point of contact to where it's like both of you guys like, okay,
Yeah,
yeah, this is what we do. This is like our responsibility and stuff like that. Whereas in other
exactly.
teams, you got to kind of talk to players and then you got to figure out schedules. Whereas the coach or even in managers. Positions like they all know that stuff already, so it's easier
Mhm.
for them to make the plans and things just happen like that just so much faster.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It's a lot more smooth whenever you have managers and coaches putting everything together. That's for sure.
what about other EG teams? Have you spoken to like any teams in like other games for EG?
That is actually something I want to do really bad. I would say the biggest person I want to talk to is Boba from the Dota team. He's their coach,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a phenomenal coach from what I've heard and from what I've seen. So he's one guy I definitely want to bounce ideas off of for sure. That would be the main person I would want to talk to, and also the Rainbow Six team as well. I'd love to bounce ideas off their coach. So, being able to have those resources from EG is something that's going to be it is amazing and is going to be amazing for the future as well. Whenever we're all together, so
Yeah.
that's something I'm looking forward to for sure.
Yeah, that'd be cool too. And then you can like see like guys who've kind of been doing things, although in different games. Like you can see like what's their method of prep, this, that, and the other thing. Like you said, just bounce ideas off of each other, and that's always cool because you guys are all working towards the same thing, which is like making your individual teams like the best team. So
Exactly. Yeah.
it's great that you guys are working together. More coach questions. Hardest decision you've had to make as a coach?
Hmm. Hardest decision. I don't know. Like really, it's a lot of small decisions to make, I would say. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, the big ones being player moves. I think the Chrome move was a really hard decision. That was one move where I wanted to, like, I would have loved to keep the team together just to make sure we're kind of moving forward. But at the same time, there was one of those things where you almost knew, or you weren't certain. I wasn't certain, at least, that it would have worked out 100%. So I think that was one of those moves where I kind of knew what I needed to do, but at the same time, I didn't want to like, say outright until like it just kind of like presented itself, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So that was one of the harder moves and one of the harder things we've had to do. Other than that, as far as like picking up players, that's something that can be difficult. I would say for like Chicago and especially with Dripa too, we've always kind of looked towards one player we want to get, and if we want to get them, we do our best to get them. So like as far as deciding whose players we're picking up, that's usually not as bad because we're usually like very much in sync on who we want to get.
Okay. So, well, no, because like, let me see. I was gonna ask, when did you feel like you knew coaching was for you? That would probably be like around like kind of denial time, right?
Yeah, that was around then. I would say even like during the Fibion times, the that was like season 4 where I went from denial to Fibion and then to EG.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Fibion was more. I was doing a lot of personal coaching at that time as well.
Mm,
And like going with denial, it was a lot more, I guess you could say, casual than it is today.
yeah.
Especially because I wasn't, it wasn't a full time job. I was still working another full time job, so I wasn't able to do it as much. I would say definitely during the Fibion times where I was doing team coaching, but also like a lot of personal coaching as well was whenever I really like picked up everything and moved forward. Like with denial, it was good because I got to get the feel for it and get like the understanding of how to coach. But in the end, like that whole year after denial, I would say was where it really kind of, picked up pace. And whenever I started with EG last year, that was whenever it was like full time. This is awesome. I'm loving this. So that was whenever it was like 100% like I'm, committed sort of thing.
Yeah, I didn't know you coached for Fibion. That's that's a. I'm sorry, but that was just like when you
No, no,
told me, it
yeah.
was just like whoa.
It wasn't as like it was kind of the same as denial a little bit, where it was still sort of like part time because I was full time at another job. But at the same time, it was one of those things where I was trying to help out that team, but also
Mm,
helping out like the individual people as well whenever I was doing personal coaching. Like that was really kind of where it started to pick up.
yeah, at least with that one, you weren't as involved because that's a yikes. Like I'm gonna be real with you. Like
I was actually fully involved with that whole org drama
really,
going on. Yeah,
wow.
that was whenever Fibion, because that's how I met EG in the first place,
Mm,
was through that whole merger or transfer, or at least attempt to transfer.
yeah, that was,
Uh, and that's kind of where it all began and went down from there. So you guys know the whole story with that. It was just a mess.
right.
But
Look, everybody in Twitch chat right now, our man Fireworks been through the trenches, right? It's so true. I was like,
yeah,
denial. I knew
man.
denial. I didn't know Fibion. I was, oh my.
Yeah, like that's why EG is like a blessing, honestly,
Yeah.
because those last two were definitely not, to say the least.
Oh man. I don't know how you did it, but you did it, and I'm happy for you. Okay.
Thank you, thank
Oh
you.
man, all the better things. But you said that roster moves obviously is something that require a lot of detail. I think it's time for us to actually get into that portion
Sure.
of the conversation. You got your boy Dripe over there. Is he still over there? Is he like watching you
He
kind of?
is. Yeah, he's watching a video right now, but yeah, he's here.
Okay, okay. Because
We might have to
it's
bring
just
you
funny
over in a
because he's
moment.
sitting like 2 seats away, and we're about to talk about him right now.
Yeah, yeah, you're
But
good. I can move the camera. You want to check him out real quick?
oh
Say hi.
yeah, unless he like, are we
Oh,
gonna have
I
like a
turned off the monitor.
fireworks? Oh god, are we gonna have like a fireworks Dripe discussions thing? Ah.
I don't know. We could if you want, but I don't have two headphones though. That's the only thing.
Oh,
I'd have to relay the actual questions, but if you want to, we can.
if he's down
Either way.
for it, if he's
Oh, I
down
got
for
my
a
head
chat,
sticking out.
uh, you got this is your moment, chat. If you want to send some Dripe some questions, if I think of some later on, I will. But yeah, let's talk about it. So, what prompted this entire idea? Like, why Dripe?
We've had our eyes on him for a while, actually. Even with the Chicago thing, like with the Chicago move,
Mm,
if we weren't able to get him, he was another option for us as well. There were some other options as well at that time, but we were still like, we always knew that Drippy was an amazing player. And, that was one of those players where, or one of those like ideas or options where we always had it in the back of our mind. But whenever this whole thing came about with Chicago possibly getting picked up by G2 and that whole scenario, instantly our first thought was Drippe. That was the first person we wanted on our team. And that was basically the only real option we wanted on our team. The other options were something where we would kind of have to compromise and feel like we didn't get exactly what we wanted,
mm-hmm.
which is kind of hard to say, but like it's still the truth. I would say with a couple other people as well, like Kronovi was still a huge option also. I don't think there's any, like, I'm not going to give any disrespect towards him.
Right.
I think he still was an amazing pickup as well if we were able to. But I think Dripe was still one of those people who we were like, you know what, like let's get him, let's make it happen. So we were trying to hold on to Chicago from G2, but in the end, it just didn't end up working out. So we wanted to find our next options, and that was Dripe.
So did it end up becoming? Was it like you guys kind of having your eyes out in the open just in case, and then G2 ended up coming to you guys, or was it like something else?
Yeah, correct. So I got approached by G2, and essentially they were saying that they wanted to pick up Chicago, and Chicago was showing some interest in them. So we were saying, hey, if Chicago wants to give it a tryout and like scrim with them, we were okay with that. We were kind of course, hesitant because you never really want to let your player go or do anything like that, or especially with a player like Chicago. So just letting him scrim with them once and seeing where he would go, and like I kind of just left it up to him in the end. And I, of course, wanted to reel him in and try and keep him any way I could. But in the end, it's going to be his decision. And I think a lot of times, whenever you have a player like that and you have somebody who's wanting to possibly stay or wanting to possibly go somewhere else, it's a really just hard decision for that player to make. So in the end, I pushed as much as I could, but I didn't want to push too hard. And I also like made sure that he was happy where he wanted to be and that we ended up being happy where we wanted to be. And we definitely are.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it seems like it worked out for you guys perfectly. We got
Yeah.
Arzan12 in chat. When did Dripe first talk to EG about to you guys basically about joining the roster? Like, when did you guys, I guess, first communicate?
I don't know the exact timeline. I would say whenever things started to look a lot more serious with Chicago leaving, because that had kind of gone on for about a week or so, where it was kind of like an if he is going to go, we might as well start thinking about Trip A. And that's whenever so that kind of started, and then once it like sort of evolved into hey, it's a real possibility, then that's whenever I approached Trip A, over Steam because I had him on there.
Hmm.
I basically just asked him if he was interested, and he said definitely. So we kind of kept in contact from there. And then as soon as the discussions with G2's actual management started happening, where they were starting to consider the buyout, that's whenever I reached out to the Chiefs and started doing the same exact thing, basically, where, we were looking to buy out the Trip A as well from the Chiefs.
Did you guys ever like actually try him out at any point?
No, we kind of just had that feeling that we thought it was going to work out. And, we had that same feeling with Chicago as well. So it was one of those things where we're just like, you know what, let's give it a shot. I think it will work out. And, it's definitely moving forward. So I'm liking where we're at so far.
That's
So far we're good.
crazy.
We have a long ways to go, but right now, things are looking good. There's very good hints of synergy in there too.
Oh yeah.
So we're happy.
And like if you guys were watching the WSOE calls, like you could see it for sure. Like when you
Yeah.
guys, there were just moments where you guys turned up, and everyone watching was just like, "Oh, these guys look good." And
Yeah, yeah.
and I mean, like how before WSOE calls, like how much time did you guys end up having to practice?
None. So
What?
we ended up just basically having to go to James Bot's house and play at his house for that because whenever we came in on Friday, we weren't able to play then. So we kind of just like basically said, hey, James Bot, can we come over? We'll play on Saturday and we'll play from there. And so that's what we ended up doing. And thankfully and lovingly, James Bot, you're a great guy. Thank you for the housing situation there or the setup there. We really appreciate that. So yeah, he played from there at the WSOE, and we kind of just that was our first time playing. So
What?
we showed up that morning at 7:30, 7:45 in the morning, and they scrimmed for about an hour, and then basically just played the tournament, and that was their first time. So it was
Holy
interesting.
cow! Yeah, I mean, you guys like I said, you guys almost made like a really good run there too. It was
Yeah,
interesting to see, and with no practice though, just like immediately like,
yeah,
hey, we just brought this guy over from OC. Let's just play a tournament. And
exactly.
you're
Yeah,
just like, what? Yeah. So
yeah.
I think definitely with how are things now that you guys have had some time, like to
Good.
actually like, practice?
Yeah.
It's like a lot better.
Oh yeah, a lot better. It's starting to come together. There's always going to be hiccups at the beginning, I think, and I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't even call them really hiccups, just more like learning curves with your team. So, of course, with every team, there's going to be like a few things here and there that normally wouldn't happen like a month from now. So right now, like we're doing really well in scrims. I would say we're not exactly finishing them that we want the way we want to, but every game has been really close. Like every game that we're playing is within one goal. Every game that we win or lose has been within one goal. And so we're really showing that we're right there on top. And I think that's a good sign for us, you know. Like there's of course a lot of things that us and every team needs to work on, and that's something that we're going to do through this off season.
Hmm.
But it's definitely looking very good so far.
Can you talk to me about the logistics side of this move, or like kind of like or just like things that go into like having to transfer someone from OCE to North America? Like, was that a really like challenging process for you?
Yeah, thankfully with Evil Geniuses, we have somebody who handles a lot of travel, all the travel and also the visa like setups and applications. So she basically handles all of the travel situations itself and travel itinerary and things like that, and also the visa stuff. And I just kind of give her, her name is Sarah at EG, and I just kind of give her all of the information and go from there. And she's been an extreme help, and you know everybody at EG's been an extreme help with that. So as far as getting the Dripa here, it was pretty straightforward. You know, we were only able to really buy the ticket. I think it was Wednesday for him to come down. It was either Wednesday or Tuesday for him to come down on Friday or be there by Friday. So, you know, they were able to do such a last minute thing and get it all together perfectly. And, you know, I worked with, you know, our management and everybody at EG and just kind of got it all together. And now we're working towards kind of getting his visa set up and getting it so that he can live in the United States with us.
Yeah, I mean, like, how has all this been for him though? Like, it just seems like just like like the past week or so. You know what I mean? Moving to North America, playing in NA quals against these teams that you only see like once or twice a year. Like,
Yeah.
how's like all that change been on him?
I don't know. Hey, Dripe, how's the change been for you so far?
Being good.
He said it's been good.
Oh, that's
I don't
so
know.
good.
Like basically, he's just asking with like with trimming and everything like that, and how the actual change has been, all that. Yeah. Anything you want to add, Mevin?
um, well, obviously, it's like a bit difficult at first to play with a different and new team, but we're showing a lot of like good signs straight from the start. So yeah, I'm just really looking forward to improving with the new team.
Could you hear that?
Yeah,
Did
I
you get
got
any
it.
of
I
that?
got it.
Okay.
It was clean. It was clean.
Perfect. Good answer. That was good.
Oh man. That's great then. If he's just like picked up things and come here and then everything's been fine, like
Yeah,
that's
he's
definitely a good sign.
he's a very patient and good man. That's for sure.
Okay, let me see if I can get some more. We got people ask questions from Reddit earlier today. I want to see if I can squeeze one of those in here. Was there okay? Here, someone asked about something about you guys moving to Seattle. Do you know what that's
Yeah.
about?
Yes. So we, instead of being at the Xfinity training facility here in Alameda, everybody is moving out to Seattle. They're essentially buying a large office space for us, and we're able to have every single team there from EG be in the same location, working out of the same facility. So, you know, you kind of see something similar to, I think it was like the Team Liquid training facility. I think they have one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Something similar to that, where each team kind of has their own room and each team is able to practice together and work together. And also, you know, we'd kind of be in apartments nearby instead of working in like a boot camp house or like a house itself, where a gaming house, where essentially, you know, there's no work life separation between, you know, waking up and going straight to work if you're in a house, because you essentially just go downstairs and, you know, that's, you're right there with your teammates all the time. And that can get a little tough on players at times. So it's good to have a separation, you know, being able to go into the office and being able to work from there and just play from there in general, and then go home and have your own free time and your own like alone time is, I think, super helpful for a lot of people. And there's been, you know, a lot of cases that show that that's true for a lot of these training facilities that are coming out, because that's becoming a new norm now, where, you know, they're bringing everybody out to a central location. So that's one thing that'll be great for us. As far as like playing, I think the biggest controversy with moving out to Seattle for us is the West Coast versus East Coast servers.
Yeah.
So it's a tough issue right now. That is something where I worked with Psionics last season, or at least got the email train rolling, where basically trying to get them to open up central servers because they do have central servers in the system technically. Now, whether they would want to use them or not is up to them, and I don't know exactly what the capacity of those are. But I know for a lot of times, like not last season, but the season before, I think it was season 5, where we would have to use a branch build, or what they would call a branch build, which is essentially logging into a beta version of Rocket League and then playing from there, like in the tournaments, in case like one of the builds was not working properly. And those tournaments or those branch build servers would always be in Texas, or at least somewhere central. So we know at least they have some somewhere, and I know they do have even a public Chicago server. So we're trying to at least push for those. That is my number one goal right now whenever we're moving out to Seattle is getting central servers because it's something that is extremely important. And I think if we don't have those, then we're kind of ruining the integrity of, the competitive integrity of the game if our players are at a ping disadvantage compared to other players. And that even goes so far as I made a huge spreadsheet for Psionics whenever I actually presented them the idea of using these central servers for RCS, where I noticed on average Chicago, because he lived in LA at the time, and I think he still does, whenever I was watching the replays, I could see the actual pings that are on RLCS, and I would count them, or not count them, but note them down. And essentially, it boiled down to Chicago having a 40 ping difference in the ping player, or sorry, the highest ping player compared to his ping. So unless the player was on West Coast, then they would be even. But if you're taking even the best ping from like the same lobby, and that player's on East Coast compared to Chicago at the time, and he was on West Coast, there would be upwards of a 60 ping difference on there, 70 ping sometimes. And it would just be, well, not 70 really, that's around 100, but it would really be around 60. And it was really a disadvantage. In Rocket League, that's something you can't have, is that full half second of not being able to see what's going on in the play. So having a change with that is something we'll definitely need for Seattle, and we're begging Sonics to pull this through, and we're hopeful. And from what I can tell, they are very adamant about it, and they really do want to work on it. But we're not 100% sure it's going to happen yet. But even if, worst case scenario, let's say there's no full central servers yet, there's still that Chicago server that could work out well for us because Chicago's not too bad from too far from Seattle as it is from LA. There's a little bit difference there. I mean, geographically, it's kind of a little bit closer. So hopefully, at the very least, I can get that ping to around 60, maybe 70. But I don't think anybody should be playing on ping higher than 70, to be honest. 80 is really pushing it. Then you get to the 90s and 100s, and it's not the same game. So that's something we're going to have to work on. That's something that we're really pushing for, and I'm really going to have to keep pressuring Sonics, because I know anytime I even mention the word central servers to them, they kind of get triggered because I've talked about it with them on numerous dozens of occasions, really. So it's definitely something that we're needing, and that's what we're pushing for.
Is that like the biggest change you want for RLCS?
Yes, right now that is 100%. If we're talking what needs to be in the game, even just for the private matches, doesn't have to be public, just for the private matches themselves, for RLCS, having a central server, I think if you don't, it ruins the competitive integrity of the game, and you're putting players at a disadvantage that they shouldn't have in the first place. So I think they understand that. I don't think they're shying away from that part. I think it's just something that they need to push forward a little bit quicker, I would say.
Okay. And that's also why, during the off season, like we get the cool like live LAN events, because at that case it kind of puts everybody on an even playing field. Speaking of LAN events, do you guys plan on like if you guys like, let's say for whatever reason you guys don't end up qualifying through the open qualifiers for DreamHack, do you guys plan on like flying out?
We do, yes. So we're still trying to fully figure out if we're allowed to with Dripa, because he is still technically from Australia. So right now it's looking like we are able to, at least. But yes, if we don't happen to qualify, then we will be flying out there, at least to my knowledge. I don't think anything's changed as far as that regard. So yeah, you'll definitely see us there for sure.
Awesome. Okay, that's cool because like, yeah, again, like I mean, you talk about pinging and like playing on different servers, but like the one good thing about the off season is that we get all of these good like live events that I mean, play for not as good of a prize pool as RLCS, but it's still something that's better than just playing the online tournaments, and at
Yeah,
the same time, you guys get good practice, and and like I said, you're playing on an even playing field with other teams. So that works
exactly.
out very well.
Yeah.
Let's see what else do I have for you today, sir. Um, you from Reddit, user Chief Papalu asks if there was anyone else you guys seriously tried out, and if there were any close second picks.
Uh, it's kind of funny. We didn't really. We kind of just had Dripa 100%.
Mm,
Our mentality was if we couldn't get Dripa, then we would start trying people out. I would say we did want to try out Kronovi at least. That was somebody who we at least wanted to give a try out and see what would work and if it would. But I think both parties from our side and from his were kind of just under the understanding that we both didn't think it was a perfect fit for us. So it kind of went a little bit, I would probably say a little bit slow. So in the end, whenever we didn't get the tryout with Kronovi, it was essentially because we had already gotten Dripe by that point. So we were looking to still try him out, but I think in the end, a lot of us, or not the team and I rather, were just straight looking for Dripe and then having that Kronovi possibility, but he was also very happy with Rogue, and he was wanting to push towards them, and we were really wanting to push towards Drippe, and that was the closest one though I think we would have had. There were a couple other picks. I know Arsenal. He was a very possible option for us.
mm,
He was somebody who we were considering as well, but in the end, again, it kind of just came down to well, if we don't get Drippe, then we'll consider those. So,
right.
he's one of those players who I think is very up and coming and is going to be a good fit for any team, like possibly Ghost or somewhere else.
Right, and that leads me to my next question that we have from Reddit. User Slim Jim 8511 asks, what do you think? What does Fireworks think about the competition in North America this year? 5 high-level teams, maybe 6, depending on who Ghost third is. Which they tried out Arsenal. I don't know if he's official or not, but like
Yeah.
based off of like what you've seen so far.
It is going to be a roller coaster for this year.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's the most competitive season I think we'll ever have as far as talent is concerned. There was usually just like that top three, possibly top four teams who you knew would make it to land. Um, I guess the four slot always kind of being up in the air, especially whenever it comes to us. We were always kind of the underdogs. But it always kind of came down to there was a handful of teams that were going to be good, but now like 80% of the teams are really good, and or whatever percentage it is for, I would say top six, even Bread and Splice are really good. Like I wouldn't even count them out as well.
Mhm.
I think they still have a little bit of a learning curve to get through, and I think they definitely will, honestly, because they're still a really, really good team. So I would say all 8 of us could honestly qualify. Of course, you're going to have NRG and C9. I think those are a definite yes, unless like a bombshell drops somewhere, not obviously, but like within their team and something that just completely like doesn't work.
Right.
And so I think like if that happens, then maybe like they don't qualify, but that's such a low scenario.
Mm.
So really, it comes down to those top 2 definitely make it, and then the rest, I think us and G2 will, and then, but that possibly, it's all down to the day basically of what happens.
Yeah,
And
it's crazy.
that is one thing as well. I think with RLCS next season, I think they should change like the regional format, the way it works to qualify for the land, because I think one day is kind of just a little bit too much. Like especially
Mm.
just making that one series like basically dignifies your entire season is kind of silly to me. So I'm hoping they change it up, but we'll have to see.
What would you prefer?
Honestly, I haven't given too much thought on it, but at least a double ELM bracket to where those teams made it through, and also, I mean, they could go several different ways, really. Well, I think there is a
Yeah.
double ELM bracket. I'm not sure. Honestly, I can't think of it
Uh,
all. It's single ELM, right? I can't remember for some reason.
no, for regionals, I think it's what
I
is it
I,
like?
I
It's
should
like
know this, but
yeah, it's like how does it work? Because I know you can clint. You don't have to. Well, no, you the top 4 teams or there's something with like the top, oh my god, why am I having a brain fart?
I know I am too.
But I know like through league
I
play you
should
can
know this.
qualify directly to land if you like go
Yeah,
like
top 2.
right. It's single limb. Thanks guys in chat.
Single M. Okay, that's what I thought. I just for some reason thought it might have been double. So that's what I'm trying to say too, I guess. Like even just having double elim would be so much better. Like having one series really just fully be the determining factor of you making a potential huge move in your team to go to land. It's all
Yeah.
based off of one day. So I hope they change that. That's one thing for sure.
Yeah, definitely same. I mean, I don't know. I want to see something different. I need a fresh, some fresh format changes here. I've
Yeah,
been kind of like,
definitely.
I've been kind of like trying to see if I can dig around and find too much. I've just gotten like empty hints. So
Yeah.
I'm not
Even with
gonna.
us right now, we're kind of in the dark right now too. So yeah, we're right there with you.
Have they? So, I guess this leads me to another topic. What do you know about the conversation with like in-game items? Have they spoken to you directly?
Yes. So there's an NDA that's signed, but that's actually only with the organization owners. So
Okay.
not it's like above my head even right now. So I know they're working on them. I know that they are somewhat promising. I would say, from what I can say at least, they're not going to be incredible, but I think they'll still make an impact on the scene. And that even includes a certain team that is literally saying to a lot of the teams that are orgless right now that as soon as in-game items come, they are coming as well. So it's another tier one esport or esport org that would be coming in. So now, if that actually happens or not, that's another scenario. So I'm
Right.
not entirely sure, but I know in-game items will be nothing but good for the scene. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of orgs are. We had a moment there where it looked like orgs were dropping out. I mean, I think they had the FlyQuest exit, so to speak,
Mm.
and it looks like Fnatic it might be dropping their roster because the boys don't rep them anymore. They played in WSOE as the Vikings and removed all the Fnatic stuff.
Yeah.
But that being said, you also got the TSM pickup from Weedham Girls, and that's a
Yeah,
big move. That's like a really
that
big
was
deal.
huge.
They wouldn't. I mean, we've all heard where they've been like trying to come in here and there, but like that also kind of made a lot of people turn their heads back around. Like, wait, what? Why? Okay, there
Yeah.
might be something here.
Okay, Rocket League's not dying. There we go.
Right, right, right. So, there's still there something like you said. Something is coming. We don't know what,
Yeah.
but we know something is coming, and it's enough to where these
Yeah.
guys are get interested. So that
I Sorry, I do know one thing is that they are somewhat finished. I think the only thing they're working on right now is the actual legal items or legal portion of it.
oh
I could
wow.
be wrong. I don't know the actual full inside details, but I
Mm-hmm.
do know they're at least like the concept is still being worked on, but it's almost been, from what I understand, almost done. But I
Okay.
also don't know too much about it, so I can't say for certain if that's true, but that is like the rumors from what I've heard so far.
That's good. That's good. That's really good. We're gonna move on to another question. Squid came in chat earlier and asked, "Can you ask fireworks what it takes to be a coach precisely?" I've been curious for a bit actually.
Sure. So there's a lot of things that are involved. One of the biggest things I would say is communication, being able to communicate rather, as I mess up the words. No, essentially being able to talk to your players, being able to talk to them in a way that makes sense for them, and also in a way that helps them learn. That's the biggest thing. If you really enjoy helping other people learn a certain subject, I think that's something you can benefit from in coaching is being able to just teach them something. It's essentially saying, hey, there's a certain thing that you need to work on, but I need to figure out ways to tell it to you because you can't just say, hey, you suck at aerialing. This is, do it better. You got to find ways to, speak it, I guess, speak in a way that makes sense and that also helps them improve because in the end, there's a lot of things with coaching, I would say game knowledge as well, but communication is one of those things that's absolutely key or being able to communicate with other players. So that's one of the main things I would say. Other than that, of course, in-game knowledge is huge. If you don't know really the full current meta of or of Rocket League, then you probably need to understand that, or at least in a sense to where you fully understand the ins and outs of the teams itself. But if you're not coaching that high of a level, that's okay as well. So you don't have to go too far in that regard. Um, but I would just say knowing what you're, as bad as it says, knowing what you're talking about, really.
Yeah. I
There's a lot of things where you need to know the details, and in order to know those, you gotta make sure to do your homework.
I actually want to expand on that a little bit. Do you necessarily think that like in game like having like competitive experience is like necessary?
I wouldn't say it's fully necessary to be a coach. I would say it definitely helps. I know with me, especially because I went through the whole RLCS experience as a player, I knew how stressful it was. So
Mm.
I knew going into it with any team, there's going to be, issues are going to arise. So that's one thing on that side, like especially the personality side and team chemistry part, where I think is like a lot of people don't put enough emphasis on. I would say as a regular coach, though, I don't think you really need too much experience as a player. But I would also add in the part that the more experience you have as a player, the better off you're going to be able to coach. Because if you don't really know, I think with Rocket League, it's more of like a feel, for a lot of things, especially rotations and understanding where players are going to be and how the ball works. It's going to be hard for you to really fully grasp those details unless you're at a certain level to where you can grasp those details, I guess. I don't necessarily think you should be on the same level as the people you're trying to coach. Like, of course, I'm not, a 2000 ranked, MMR twos player, but I'm trying to help coach, my teammates. So being able to portray and at least understand how everything works is something you need, but not necessarily fully required to be at that level.
Okay. Speaking of which, so ever since you started coaching, have you played like? Do you still like actually play games anymore, or do you just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do play six man, so I can't really stand ranked too much because it's ranked.
Fair.
But I do enjoy six mans. That is my thing because at least it's competitive there. You can actually get a good team going. So I do play every once in a while. That kind of goes back to like my carpal tunnel issue with my hands. I
Right.
can't really play Rocket League for more than 2 hours, unfortunately.
Hmm.
And after that, like my hands start to hurt. And even before then, I'm like stretching my hands and all that. So that's kind of where I usually play 2 hours and take a break and might play a little bit more. But I would say like with the amount of hours I have on Steam for actually playing, I maybe top out at 20, 30 hours, and the rest is all coaching. So it's a lot of stuff. But yeah, I don't play out too often, I guess.
Well, at least you're able to. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
when you first said it, like I just thought that like you kind of just like you have to even monitor like how much you're like using your computer in general. You know what I mean? And you probably
yeah,
still might have to. And
yeah.
I guess I gotta like since we're already on like the subject, like would that kind of be like the low point for you in terms of like your Rocket League career when you like found that out?
Uh, I would say yes, and it was like looking back on it at that time. I think more being at that current state. Yes, like I was really upset that I couldn't play. And at that time too, like I wasn't really getting that many great offers from like teams, and I think it was because I just didn't really reach out. So I was kind of in that state of like, well, crap, I went through all this, and this is my peak. I'm done pretty
Right.
much. And then, but looking back on it now, that was probably the best thing I could have done because I got into coaching early, and I got to be or I was able to start my brand and kind of start where I'm at now. And it was a very good thing. And honestly, nowadays I'm glad I'm coaching because these guys are just insane. Like there's no way I could keep up now to what they're doing.
Oh
They're
man,
way too good. It's ridiculous.
it is ridiculous. Can you actually go into your IRL life and how that's kind of changed over the course of your Rocket League career?
Yeah, definitely. So, I would say the biggest change for me is the way people see me. I've always been that gamer kid, like I've always had a lot of friends, but like they've always known me as that kid that just plays games all the time.
Mm.
So it's always kind of been like, hey, we'll play together. I used to know a few guys who used to, blah, blah, blah. So like that was normal back then, I guess. But now it's in a sense of like literally whenever I'm with my friends, they'll introduce me to somebody and they'll be like, dude, you have no idea what his job is. Guess what his job is? Guess what he does for a living? And I'm like, oh God, here we go again.
Right.
So it's awesome. Like honestly, that's the biggest change I would say is the way people perceive like I guess my career now. I'm able to actually make a living off this and have it as my full time job and especially with my family. Like I've always had a very supportive family, but I think the biggest thing was whenever I actually started working with EG and they saw that I made a career out of this really. And that was like I think it's still the most humbling thing for me is like getting the amount of like support I do from them is like super huge. It's been amazing. That's one of those things where people ask me questions about it all the time, even to this day of like what, I do at my job and what I what the daily thing is and all that. And, it's really cool. That's the biggest change, I would say.
Yeah,
So
no,
it's,
I feel you there. Even in my little, me being
yeah,
what the community joke is, thanks to Stacks, is tier 3 Daz. But even like doing the little gigs I do from time to time, it's really the support I've had from family has been pretty phenomenal, and
yeah, that's
even
good.
even now, like as things start to move forward, like they've definitely been very supportive, and I just come to them with like, hey guys, yeah, I'm doing this, look at this. They're like, oh, that's really cool. Oh, yeah, you're
Yeah.
doing here, So
Yeah, it's a very good thing.
yeah, always having family support behind you is great, and I mean. We talk about us, but that's also kind of like the same thing with like one of your players, like Corrupted G. His family, like just based off what I've seen from socials and based off what I saw at Vegas, they're team Corrupted G. It's like
Oh
really
yeah.
cool, man. Like they got like the whole
Yeah.
family has jerseys and everything with different things like Dad
Yeah.
G or something like that, Corrupted Dad. Like
Yeah.
that's super cool. So it's
Yeah,
always good to see that support.
he's got a gigantic family too, and I swear it's like 200 people I want to say, but
I
it's
know.
he definitely, yeah, he's got a lot of support and it's really good for him. Like, and I think that's with all the players too. Like every player's parent that I've met, whether it be Classics's or Chicago's or even mine or Gabe's, everybody's been supportive. I've never seen a parent be like, "Oh man, why is my son making money playing video games?" Like they're all really really cool and really really excited about it. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think it comes in a wave. It's like a wave, right? Like
Yeah,
when we first start and we say stuff to them, then they say, yeah, this is okay, that's cool. But then it's when you start doing stuff, and then it's also like some parents also base it off like monetary value. I know my mom does, and
yeah,
because boy, what. She'll be like, okay, this is cool, but then she'll be like, how much are they paying you? And I'm like, maybe.
yeah,
Um, but
yeah. No,
especially like
definitely.
for like the RLCS boys, like their parents are like I've seen Kronovi's dad on Reddit too many times, especially around
Oh
the
yeah,
time where they did the G2 roster move, and like
yeah.
I got like Torment's dad follow me on Twitter. Bread, one of the guys, AXB, his dad follows me. He's like commenting after I make a tweet about the like, oh yeah, we're watching Bread next. He's like, oh, you guys are doing
Yeah.
great. I'm like, thanks, AXB dad. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it comes in waves, but it's like when it all happens and when it all comes together, then it really like it gives the person, whoever it is, like that extra motivation, knowing that you don't have to constantly worry about convincing your parents like what you're doing and where
Yeah.
you're going all the time. So,
Yeah. I remember just to add on to that a little bit. I remember StarCraft 2 days. Whenever I used to play that a ton in
mm-hmm.
like a tournament, and I stayed at a LAN center playing the tournament, and my mom like yelled at me because I didn't bring home or I didn't come home to like watch my little sister. And just the difference then and the difference now, like the way she perceives it, and like some of the other people as well, is like night and day. And I'm happy for it. In the end, like back then, I knew the things I was doing with gaming wasn't exactly the right way to go about it, but now it's turned into something where it's great. So it's
Yeah,
nice.
that's cool. That's really like again, and I mean, speaking of which, like your boy Dripa here, he just moved like to another country. Like again, like
Yeah.
something that's unprecedented. You know what I mean? For like Rocket League esports, like first
Yeah.
player to like just completely like there's a difference when you're playing. So like some players they still play it when they're at home, or like they're like maybe they move to another state to like like how you guys are going to Seattle and stuff like that. But like he went to another like continent, not even another country, another
Yeah.
continent. Like this guy is
Yeah.
completely different, and like you gotta have like. Can you ask him like what that was like in terms of like the home life stuff, if you don't
Yeah.
mind?
Yeah. Hey, Dripe. So like here, you ask him because that way it's like a little bit easier for you.
All right.
Here you go. Here, you want to hop over? Here, I'll move over.
Skirt.
Here, you can sit here. And we'll switch back.
Yo. Dripe, what's up, man? How you doing?
So I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Do you mind if I ask you a couple questions about like your life and like the move and everything?
Yeah, sure.
So what's it like in terms of like home life, like having to like move to another continent to play Rocket League? Like, how did that kind of conversation go? Did you have a talk with like your family?
Um, Well, it's been my like goal for a while now, so it wasn't a massive surprise to
Mm.
them. I've obviously talked to them about it like beforehand, before it started happening. But like they're really supportive. Like they've been on board about it. Like my mum's obviously a bit of a mum, just like, oh, I don't want you to leave. Like,
Uh,
yeah, wants me to stay, but yeah, they're really supportive.
we had some questions from like the community and stuff too. One of the guys asked like, um, what prompted you to like move to EG? Did you have any other offers?
Um, I think well, G2 were interested as well. Like they were showing some interest if they couldn't get Chicago, and then obviously because Chicago went to G2, then a spot in EG freed up, and that was the best offer I could get.
Okay, so you were kind of always looking to just like move to a North American team, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me like how you've like been fitting in with the boys? Like, what's it like playing with Corrupted G in classics?
Yeah, they're great to play with. Like they're very nice. Like Classics is hilarious. Like yeah, it's really great to play with them. Like we haven't played too much together yet, but when we have, like we've been showing really good signs, and seems like we'll be a very good team. We just need to put in the work, and yeah.
Okay, cool. And I guess let me see if I can find something here. Last question I got for you is like talking with the Chiefs and like kind of like telling your roster like about the move and stuff. Like, what was that like? How were those guys handling it?
When I talked to Tors and Kami, like they weren't too surprised by it. They seemed to expect it, so it
Mm.
wasn't too um it wasn't that difficult. But they were just obviously worried about who they would get as a replacement.
Yeah, because you're like really good. To be fair, but yeah, thank you so much, Dripe.
No, all good.
Let me talk to Fireworks real quick before I close
Yeah.
things out.
Me? Alright.
Oh, he got the Gold Rush shirt on. Okay, I see.
Oh
I
yeah.
see with the Gold Rush 2 shirt. All right, all right.
I gotta rep James Bond a little bit, you know, he helped us out big time.
Yeah. That is a big time help. So I mean, yeah, no. Let's see. We've kind of ran through everything at this point. Like, I don't know. You know what? I should have asked him what his favorite North American food was. I forgot to do that. I forgot to ask about the.
Hey, what's your favorite North American food?
Uh,
I forgot to
Panda
get up.
Express.
You said Panda
Panda
Express.
Express. I feel that. I feel the
Yeah,
Panda
good.
Express. I like that one. I like that one for sure. Fireworks, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
We've
same
had
to
a
you.
nice talk for like an hour and 17 minutes. Is there anything you want to talk to me about? Anything you want to ask me before we get out of here?
We covered a lot of bases. Biggest thing was Seattle for me. I think that's the biggest thing coming up. That's something I am super excited about. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
So,
But
wait,
I can't.
are you
Go
guys
ahead.
living in like the same house or like how is that working for like the team?
Um, so we're looking at apartments right now. I'm not sure if we're going to live in a house or apartments, and whether it's going to be all together or not. That's something we're still going to have to like decide.
Hmm.
But it's still, excuse me, it's still kind of something we're working towards and figuring out. So I don't have like full details on it yet, but it will be, the players will at least be together. I might try and like separate a little bit, but we'll see. I might stay with the players too, so we're all together, but we'll have to figure it out. Yeah, that's one thing we're going to be doing is at least being in the same area, and if not the same like apartment building or same apartment itself or house, and we'll be kind of living out of there and
Yeah, I
going to
mean,
work in the office.
that's pardon my language, chat. That's fucking dope. Okay,
Yeah.
like that's cool as fuck.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm excited for sure.
Oh man. So Seattle's big news. Um, Obviously things looking good with Drip A. Getting ready for DreamHack quals this weekend. Things are looking good. It'll only get better with time. Big thanks, I guess. The big thanks one to everybody who submitted questions in chat. And on Reddit as well. If you guys are watching, thanks so much. Fireworks, man. It's been a pleasure. It's always good. I'm so glad that we
Yes,
got
thank
you
you.
on here to like just share like as much as you could about just things about coaching, because that's still like a big deal. Just like we have coaches in Rocket League, yes, but I think over time we'll come to see more once people realize like how valuable they are and like
Yeah.
what they really add to a team. Again, man, honestly, I'm super fucking happy for you, and like
Thank you.
just like from meeting you all the way back when playing on
Yeah.
Denial to like where you are now, it's just the come up has been huge and it's not stopping. You guys just made an incredible move, and now you're about to make another incredible move. Like, and then we're still in the off season, right?
Yes,
So
I know. Yeah, we got a long way to go.
yeah, this 2019 is looking good for everybody. So again, man, just thank you for coming
Definitely.
on and talking to me tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for all the great questions, and thank you, chat, and everybody else out there. Lawler, I saw you in chat. Thank you, love you, and everybody else as well. I appreciate it, and Dazzler, especially to you. Thank you, man.
No problem.
I
It was
always
my
appreciate it.
pleasure. Definitely a
You have,
pleasure of mine, for
you are
sure.
always amazing in this community. You've always done really well, so I appreciate it.
Anytime. I do what I can. But thank you guys for watching at home. This is Discussions with Dazerin featuring Fireworks. And you all have a good night, chat. I love you guys. You guys have a good night as well.